Hello everybody, Paul here from Fiesta Adventures, and today I'd like to take you on a walking tour of Bodie, California, probably the most well-preserved ghost town anywhere. It's actually pretty large with a lot of buildings. One needs to keep in mind that at one time there were 10,000 people living here. What remains is just what wasn't burned in fires. State Park Service bought the town in 1962, and since then they've tried to keep it preserved, kind of similar to the way it was when they found it, rather than doing full restorations just to shore things up and replace roofs and things like that are very important, but otherwise any repairs are done with a similar type of wood, etc. Anyway, it's a really interesting town, so come along and enjoy the tour. This behind me is the Mandolin house. Frank McDonald and his son were miners. His wife was a post mistress. And then late in the game, Alice Dolan, the daughter of Sheriff James Dolan, lived here for a couple of years. And then that would be the church over there, which I think burned down in the late 1800s, then was rebuilt in the late 20s. Still standing and looking pretty good today. This is the D.V. Kane house. And this house was owned and occupied by the owners of the town, who later sold the town to the state in 1962. Got some old cars and parts here. Some sort of wagon or horse-drawn thing here, and then a somewhat well-preserved car from the, I guess it would be around late 30s. Pretty nice though. It's amazing how unrusted it is. I mean, it's got the patina, but it's not rotting through. Still got some paint there. Looks like maybe it was a kind of a bluish silver, maybe, with a red primer. Not much left of the dashboard. I'm sure some of you out there in YouTube land would know immediately what this is. It's really nice though, two-door coupe, beautiful. I believe this is called the Red Barn. You can see a bird there on that old tank cylinder there. This is the back side of it. The wood is absolutely beautiful. Wonderful patina. Now this barn obviously used to be red, but I think it's the Park Service or State Park Service philosophy to prevent further decay on the buildings, and they do a lot of work on them, but they try to make it like you can't tell that the work has been done. For example, of course, they have to redo the roofs. The other thing to note is that a lot of these buildings around Bodie back in the day were painted white, but the Park Service has decided to leave them as they found them when they bought the place in 1962. Here's the front of the barn where you can still see that there is some evidence of the original red paint. This is of course the north side of the barn, so it doesn't get as much sun. This is the James Stewart Kane house. He was involved in lumber and later in banking in Bodie. So he's obviously pretty wealthy and ended up in the end being one of the principal owners of the town. You can see the doorway is pretty fancy at one time. And you can see evidence of white paint certainly on this house. After the Bodie decline in the 1930s, he still believed that the town would prosper again at some point, but obviously it never did. And the other members of his family, the D.V. Kanes, ended up selling the town. This rather modest building is called the Saddle Room, and it was part of a complex of stables and whatnot. I think other buildings that would occupy this field next to it. Okay, I'm walking down Green Street toward Main Street, which crosses at that next intersection. You can see these larger buildings over here are on Main Street. Now it's good to keep in mind that Bodie once, I think, was a town of something like 10,000 people, and it's remarkable what's still here, but the reality is that most of it burned down in various fires over the years. This is the Surrey shed here. I'm actually behind it. The reason I want to be behind it is I want to show this beast here. Look at this thing. Wow. The wheels on that bad boy. And then some sort of like worm gear thingy here. Wow. A brake lever. Oh, that gear thing is for the brakes, I think. This is the Boone store and warehouse. Front's in shadow. I'll go over there and show it a little better. Here's the storefront. And you can actually peer in the windows here. There's the inside of the store. There's the store window on the other side of the door. Shelves are stocked. Pretty cool. And some mannequin bust here. This is presumably a 1927 Dodge Ram, obviously restored. One of the few things in Bodie that's like really restored. Look at these old gas pumps. These are so awesome. The top of this one still has the yellow shell color on it. Look at that lever on there. Super cool shell sign. Naturally, it's got bullet holes in it, and then there's a UL listing thing here, plaque. This is the Joel house, and apparently the Joels invested in mining. They weren't miners themselves, but they had investments, so they did pretty well and had a bunch of property around Bodie. Ellie Joel was actually a painter, so she did some paintings that were popular around the area. Here we are at the firehouse. It's a pretty modest little thing, considering what a problem fire was in these towns. Very cool bell, still intact at the top. Too hard to steal, I guess, so it made it through the era when it really was a ghost town and nobody was here. Some of the old firefighting equipment is still intact inside. This must have been from the earlier era, though, because by the time the town was abandoned in 1937, they would have had motorized proper fire engine. This would be the old barber shop. Kind of nice pattern up there, and you can see the striped little sign over there. What's really cool, if we can get the angle, look at those windows, which have a lot of texture to them, are almost certainly the original windows. You can see how distorted the reflection of the mine operation in the background is in these windows. Super cool. Looks like they were repaired with fragments on that left-hand one and the right-hand one. All these windows look to be original. So cool. Yeah, all these panes look to be okay. That's amazing. Here's the sign up close. This is the Bodie Hotel, a proper fancy place with a nice porch in the front. Looks to be a wooden flagpole on the top, which is amazingly is still standing. See if we can have a look inside. And inside we have some seating for dinner, and then there's a pool table, and over to the right in the back there is a bar. This beauty is called the Swayze Hotel. It's a tiny little place, and not so named because it's swaying. It's kind of an interesting tall narrow building, probably only, I don't know, 4 or 5 rooms in here. It's no wonder that Bodie is a mecca for photographers. Here's a nice old truck, and remarkably, it looks like one of the tires on the rear is probably original. This building here is actually the morgue. This here is the Surrey shed. If you want me to break into song about the Surrey with the fringe on top, I'm afraid you're going to have to go to Wonder Hussey's channel for that. But anyway, there is a Surrey inside, and it may have had a fringe on it. pretty well preserved on that. My God, the leather's still intact on this thing. The wheels, other than the paint being kind of gone, are in really good shape. This is the Miners' Union Hall, but it is now the visitor center and museum. This wooden building next to the Miners' Union Hall is the IOOF building. And next to it, the brick building, is the Deschambault Hotel, but it was also served as the post office. This is the inside of the IOOF hall. And this is the inside of the Deschambault Hotel and post office. And you can see those are, that weird round thing, those are mail slots in there. And this is the left side of the brick building, the hotel. As you look at it straight on, the post office is over on that side. And this is the hotel counter bar, I guess. This is obviously the schoolhouse. Pretty, one of the larger buildings here, and one of the better preserved ones, I would say. Yes, sir, we still have some old desks in there. And some books, too. I understand the school had as many as 615 students at one time. There's a couple of old garages and the Falk house back there. This is the Gregory house here. This one up here is the Macmillan house. Looking up Green Street, more houses and mine tailings at the top. See the electrical power came through. There's the big mine over there. Looking back toward town on Green Street. Here is the mine. You can take a tour of the mine at certain hours, a guided tour, but you're not allowed to go in there if you're not on a tour. You have to use your imagination to realize that at one point Main Street was a solid mile long. In this area right in front of me were the sites of the U.S. Hotel and the Occidental Hotel, two of the popular hotels, and Main Street kept going way out that way, and it would have been packed with buildings side to side. But what you see remaining is from buildings that survived fires. This is the Bodie Bank Vault. And this is the safe inside the vault. This is the Moyle warehouse, where they store goods for the winter. And the walls, as you can see, stone walls are extremely thick, probably 2.5 feet thick. It would help prevent things from freezing. This is the Kirkwood stable, and behind the stable was the jail. The brick building there was the Mastretti liquor storage house. You can imagine in a town like Bodie, you would really need to take care of your liquor, and they did. Here's a view of the backside of the jail on the right and the stable on the left, and of course the mine in the background. This building here was apparently the machine shop, and behind it, with that narrow smokestack coming up, was the Assay shop, which presumably they would melt down the ore to determine the quality and yield. This is the Sawmill. A little bit in rough shape, but it's hanging in there. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this walking tour of Bodie, California. I hope it inspires you to come actually visit the town. Otherwise, if you like the video, please do give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more of these types of adventures. Thanks for watching.